Disaster laws are a couple of laws, international laws, being put together by various conventions and treaties that help to promote response and preparedness as regard to natural and man-made disasters.
Disaster law refers to, in fact, all the laws, the rules, and the procedures that governments put in place to regulate and to encourage disaster management, from the prevention stage through response and recovery.
You are in a region which is faced with a number of challenges. We are very busy in the Sahel. It's not that we have what we call disaster holidays. We don't. And for this reason, Sahel convinced the organizers of this workshop to come to Dakar so that we can sensitize the countries and the National Red Cross and Red Crescent societies. And from here, of course, to push when we go back home for what we call considerations around integration of disaster laws.
What do we need and why are we here? We need a legal framework to facilitate international disaster management cooperation, which is vital for timely and effective disaster response. That's the bottom line. That's why we are here today. We need to have a legal policy framework at country level that binds us, that makes sure that it is clear as to who is to do what when, and who is to bring what and where, and how efficiently and effectively we can coordinate our efforts to be able to make an impact.
We've been consulting now with states all across the world for 10 years on this question. And we've been doing studies about how states have dealt with this in recent disasters over the last 10 years in Africa, in Asia, in the Americas, and Europe. And we find that there are a set of common problems that come up if you are not prepared with a set of rules and procedures. There can be problems in terms of the personnel who want to arrive. Do they need visas, and can they get them quickly? If you are a doctor coming from abroad, in almost every country, you must register formally before you can practice medicine in that country. And the process normally takes months to process. There are lots and lots of headaches over border crossing when it comes to customs, when it comes to transport, whether you have the right to have overflight over the country, whether you, when you bring in your ships with shipments of aid, do they have to pay the same taxes for demurrage and for docking fees? Are you going to be able to bring your telecommunications equipment in, your vehicles, your food, and your medications? These are all items that are heavily regulated under national law. You usually have to talk to several different ministries before you get an okay to bring them in. All of this slows things down when people urgently need assistance. So this is a concern for both sides of the equation. It's a concern for those who are providing the assistance and those who are receiving it. But the only one who's really in a position to regulate it is the affected state. And they can only do that effectively if they have some rules.
These guidelines are not binding law. They're based on what is in place. Well, they were not invented out of the blue. They're based on existing international treaties and guidelines and norms, based on practice. But there are a set of guidelines advising states.
This is a really important workshop for us, in particular because it's something that the Federation is doing together with ECOWAS. And it's coming after an MOU that we signed with ECOWAS to cooperate more together. ECOWAS has been a leader in Africa and also generally in developing their own regional protocols and instruments and mechanisms to smooth assistance within the region.
The ECOWAS Commission developed a policy, a regional policy known as the ECOWAS Policy on Disaster Risk Reduction. And this policy was adopted by the heads of state of the ECOWAS Commission on 7th of August 2007. And since then, ECOWAS Commission developed a plan of action for the implementation of this policy. And again, this policy gives mandates for ECOWAS Commission to see how to support its member states on mainstreaming disaster risk reduction into their programs, national development programs, and other policies, and also to see how they align their national laws in line with this the regional policy known as the ECOWAS policy. But bear in mind that any policy adopted by member states, heads of states at the ECOWAS Commission becomes a binding legal instrument on the member state. So this is one of the main giant strides the ECOWAS Commission has been able to achieve, to be able to put in place implementation of international laws and regarding to risk reduction.
Il y a une multiplicité d'acteurs au niveau des États. Dans un même pays, vous pouvez voir qu'il y a plusieurs ministères qui sont en charge de la réponse humanitaire. Suivant que c'est la prévention, que c'est l'action directe ou la réhabilitation ou la reconstruction, c'est plusieurs ministères, si bien qu'il y a une confusion totale, et ce qui ralentit les opérations. À partir de là, la leçon principale que la CEDEAO a tirée, c'est que dans le cadre de la politique humanitaire qui a été adoptée, les chefs d'État ont demandé que tous les pays aient une agence unique pour l'assistance humanitaire.
Before the establishment of the agency, like I said, we are only responding to situations when they do happen. We just sit down, when they happen, we respond. And in most cases, we don't respond in the most appropriate and timely manner. And that's what informed the decision to have this agency, which is not just responding, but also preparing mitigation, preparedness, then of course reconstruction and rehabilitation when such things happen.
We have, at international level, we have many conventions, but most of these conventions are sectoral conventions. They just deal with some aspects of a humanitarian situation. And that is at the international level, but also when you go back to a regional level as well, the ECOWAS has also a set of legislations and policies on how to respond to humanitarian situations. At the same time, we also have, at the AU level, we have these conventions I just mentioned. We have also existing policies. And when you go at member state level, they also have various legislations. So all of this, sometimes humanitarian actors can kind of get lost on how to do, which one should apply, and all of that. But when you try to compile them, as the International Federation of Red Cross and is trying to do, is having all together in what we are calling today the International Disaster Law. That would facilitate interventions, and for any humanitarian actor, it makes it easy to know what text or what legislation or what policy should apply in what situation.
This is a very important workshop, and it has exposed the participants, and myself in particular, to all these laws, regulations, and guidelines concerning the displacement of persons and the rest. And I think it's one workshop or training which needs to be replicated in most of these countries, because the number of participants here, maybe 3 per member state of ECOWAS, is not enough. Because if you take, Nigeria in particular, for example, we have the custom, we have the immigration, we have the security, other security outfits which man our borders. And they need to be well knowledgeable about these regulations and guidelines to respond appropriately when the situations demand. So I think I recommend that we should have this kind of training on a regular basis, and maybe we can even segment it to even smaller units, so that 3-4 countries can be put together, so that we can attend. It can be attended by so many people, so many agencies with responsibility for manning our borders.
In the end, it's up to governments to decide whether they're going to push these issues forward. And we in the movement, in the Red Cross and Red Crescent, we have a strong interest, particularly since national societies are auxiliaries to their public authorities, to help them, to encourage them, to bring them the benefit of our experience, both internationally and at the community level. And we have a lot to offer for this. And we're very happy to play this convening role and to help organizations like ECOWAS and their member states to really grapple with these issues.